Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for joining us today. This is actually the last of our webinars in the series that we had for our pneumonia campaign throughout November. The theme was Plan, Prevent, Protect, helping you and your calves breathe easy. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually on farm here with our new strategic dairy farm. Adam Atkinson is my colleague. And instead of doing a sort of traditional webinar where we have a sort of a speaker and a presentation, we thought today it was really important to actually focus on what one farm has done to sort of tackle pneumonia on their farm and the changes that they have made. As an industry, pneumonia is still one of the leading causes of death in young stock in both dairy and beef. And it costs the industry annually around about £15 million a year. It obviously has a financial cost, but there's also a huge stress and sort of mental health toll as well for staff and farmers when dealing with this on farm. So hopefully today, and actually with some of the webinars we've had previously in the week, this is going to give you guys a really good holistic overview of how we can cope with this on farm. But before we get into things, we're just going to move on to a little bit of housekeeping and go through that. So hopefully you can all see a little arrow at the top of your screen, which is an orange arrow with a wee white one. Please click this and use this to ask any questions throughout. Attendees are actually muted throughout this, and this just stops any interference with feedback. But please keep the questions coming in. We want this to be as interactive as possible with you guys. We're here to sort of ask you questions and find out what happened. This is actually going to be recorded and it will be going up on our YouTube page. Hopefully, if you're watching this live, you were able to get one of our delegate bags, which we sent out. So anyone who registered for the webinar should have received a delegate bag, and you would have got some of our brand new resources. If you are watching this on catch up and you would like to get a copy, please, you can order them off the website or get in touch with one of your regional knowledge exchange managers. And do remember to hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you can watch any of these webinars again. We've also got a new social media channel on Instagram, so it'd be great to see people on farm if they're watching or if they are using some of our resources, just to sort of tag us in and share what you're doing and get that kind of story going in the industry about how we're dealing with calf pneumonia on farm. But enough about me waffling on. We are going to go on to the main stars of today's show. We are joined by obviously Adam Atkinson and his wife Holly. Adam is the manager here at Caulston Farm, and Holly manages the young stock unit. I thought it might be just nice, a bit of an introduction to each of you. So Adam, about yourself, how did you get into farming and how did you end up here at Caulston Farm?
So, Dad was a herdsman, born in North Yorkshire, so I come from a North Yorkshire family. You can tell by my thick-your accent. But sort of moved around various jobs, following, you know, Dad had various herdsman jobs around the country. So it was just natural that I went in the cows and just continued in my career in the dairy farm industry. Never thought of doing anything else, to be honest.
How about yourself, Holly?
So I'm a qualified vet, and I did start working on farms from the age of about 15, but my main route into the industry was working as a qualified vet from 2009. And then when I met Adam, when we were both working in Somerset, I was a vet on the farm, and Adam was managing that farm at the time. We met then, and then we moved down here 2017, didn't we? And once we had our kids, I took some time out from veterinary and really just loved working on the farm, and you got me involved, and yeah, basically been working since 2020.
And how much of an asset has it been being a team actually on the farm together, sort of being able to share, I guess, well actually I shouldn't say it, well, I know what it's like working with your staff on the farm actually, so sometimes it can be difficult, but have you found it quite beneficial being able to sort of share each other's sort of challenges on farm?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are our own team as well, aren't we? So,
yeah.
And there's you bring your work home, whatever in this job, but yeah, support, whatever in there.
Yeah.
So we work well together. So
We always work well, and I think we bring a different perspective each. So your management, and you look at the bigger picture and the economic, where I've got like the veterinary perspective, and I did a lot of small animal work as well. So I kind of bring that individual cow and calf care. So we kind of work together, we kind of bring different things.
Yeah, different sort of agendas.
Yeah.
I know where the line is.
Yeah, and I want to
sometimes.
make animal pets, so yeah.
No, sounds like most farm relationships, I think, actually. Well, what I thought too, actually, so this is kind of like a miniature kind of digital launch of the farm, but we are going to be welcoming everyone to the farm in April, so we're really looking forward to that. But today is a bit of a get to know Adam and Holly and what's happening on the farm. So we've actually got a really nice video here that we were really lucky a couple of weeks ago. The weather's not been great, so getting dry days to get on farm to shoot some footage is always a challenge, but we've got a bit of an introduction video here about Adam, his interview sort of as to why he wants to be a strategic farmer, and just a bit of a general overview so you can see footage of the farm, the cows. So hopefully the video will play now and everybody can see what we're talking about.
Hi, Adam Atkinson, farm manager here at Caulston Farm. Look after all the operations here involved in the dairy farm. Here at Caulston Farm, we're a spring-calving system, around about 650 cows at peak. So everything will calve between mid-Feb and by the end of April. The parlour here is a 4896 herringbone with ACRs, and the base of it is a Dairy Master, but with milk right technology added to it in the recent year or so. 2 people operating, and we can milk, depending on time of year, but we'd be up to sort of 300 cows an hour throughput. The total farm size here is about 900 acres. We're a coastal here in South Devon, so very thin soils. We struggle to hold on to moisture, so we're prone to drought. Very long, thin farm. So the dairy's in the middle and they kind of walk up to sort of 3k each way. All predominantly grass based with some herbal leys, and with a plan to graze as much as this farm as possible. Bit of supplement in surplus times, but other supplement will just be shipped in. The farm team working here at Caulston, we have 4 full-time team members. We're a flat structure, so they all have their individual sort of areas of specialism or responsibility, and then on top of that is myself and my wife Holly. Holly looks after the dairy young stock, me the overall farm manager, and then in spring when we're in our peak work, our peak workload, we're bringing some students, some extra casuals to help us cope with the work then. So we could go up to 6-7 people then, and then post calving we can operate generally sort of 2 people a day. The Caulston herd here is Kiwi cross cows, 650 Kiwi cross cows, selling about 4,900 litres per lactation, 475 milk solids per animal. The live weight, the total mature live weight is about 520, the animals here. Fats will average about 4.4, proteins about 3.6. I've been here since 2017 managing this farm. Previous to that I was managing 1,000 cow intensive herd in Somerset, and previous to that I've been in New Zealand and worked in sales and various other jobs in the industry in this country and other countries. And then since joining this farm in 2017, where it was a slightly high yielding, more forage based farm, more supplement based, we've gone more spring grazing, focus on soils, focus on grass, and efficiency of turning grass into milk as efficiently as possible. The farm is owned by the Sayers family. Been within the family for a number of generations now, and it's their home farm. So this is the future flagship farm within the group. Key things about this farm: being coastal, we do go into drought. So there's been a big focus on soil health, the right species of grass to retain moisture, keep growing grass and different species of plants during drought times, to keep and maintain the amount of grass in the diet. Being organic as well, that obviously restricts our use of tools in our toolbox effectively. So that is a challenge we work with continually. New developments on the farm is things like more technology coming into the system, like walkover weighing, so weighing the herd daily, so we can enhance feed efficiency. Just more protocol, sort of team management type stuff. Just technology, and just to know what's going on so we can manage the data. I mean, so we know every cow, what she's doing for us, rather than just a group of cows. And then knowing the farm and the soils. It's, you know, knitting it all together to aid the management of the farm to improve. Really proud of how many tons of grass we do grow as an organic farm and a drought-prone farm, so we can be up to 11 tons a hectare of grass, and the resilient system we've developed here. I mean, so we're very resilient to outside influences, which, you know, makes us very future-proof going forward. Short-term plans to work on improvement here are things more efficiency. So things like, can we sell the same amount of litres of milk or milk solids by producing it easier? So variable milking systems, better quality grass species out in the farm, better management practices, better protocols going forward is the key. So the skeleton of the frame of the farm's there, and the herd, it's driving those efficiencies in now, so we can produce it as effectively and as efficiently as possible going forward. So one of the reasons I wanted to become an SDF farmer or an SDF farm was just the knowledge transfer to really push us into the next level of performance and KPIs. So bringing all that knowledge together and being part of the industry is also, and to gain, you know, just experience as well.
Right, well, that was really nice to actually see that all come together, because filming, you sort of, yeah, you don't get the full picture. So hopefully everyone else really enjoyed that as a bit of an introduction to the farm. So Adam, looking at that, what if you were to pick one thing, what are you really looking forward to on your journey as a strategic farmer?
Yeah, probably, I mean, not one big thing, there'll be lots and lots of little things. So that's, yeah, I probably don't even know yet. But it's coming, I'm sure.
It's all the journey. It's
Yeah.
all the journey.
Yeah.
Well, sort of part of that journey, and why we're kind of the final webinar on the series of the pneumonia workshop and webinar campaign, was the fact that on Caulston Farm, obviously, Holly, you came back to rear the calves in 2020,
Yeah.
and you did notice there were some respiratory disease challenges, and obviously you've kind of gone forward now, you know, each season adapting and sort of getting to where you are now, where you've had a massive reduction. So would you like to go through sort of an overview of the calf rearing on the farm and what sort of you do as the system?
Yeah. So yeah, well, I think we're focusing mainly on the heifer rearing today, but it's a 9-week spring calving block. Originally, heifer calves were born within that whole block, but we've focused that down now. So really, we're front loading with heifers because we use sex semen. So the first 4 weeks is when we get our dairy heifer replacement calves. So now currently we aim between 180 to 200 calves to carry through as a cohort.
Yep. And sort of, I suppose, have you found sex semen really helped you with the management, being able to have those heifers front end loaded in the block?
For that reason, yeah, obviously it's a risk for the fertility of keeping a real tight block, but to get all those heifers done at the beginning when the sheds are clean, you know, everyone's on point and not tired at the end of calving or anything yet, and then you get all those heifers trained really quick, don't you, rather than drips and drabs through the whole 9 weeks. So front loading really helps them with the work pressure.
Yeah, and because there's only a few weeks difference between them in terms of your growth rates and your general management going forward, they can quickly, once they're weaned, they quickly become a big group that you can work as a cohort together. So
management wise, it's quite
management.
It's one group, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one group,
you know,
by
3
the
or 4
end.
weeks is one group. So rather than 4 groups of heifers on the farm for the whole year, it's one group.
Yeah.
Just please keep the cope with the numbers as well.
Yeah, we have to make it as efficient. We've made it as efficient as we possibly can, and that's part of it.
Well, I suppose that goes on to the question about the challenges. So if we kind of go back in time to when you first came in 2020, when kind of, you know, this is, you know, now your baby, but when you first stepped into it, what were some of the challenges you had that first season?
So I think, well, the biggest challenge is, well, it's the pressure, isn't it? It's an intense period of time, you're spring calving, and you've got one hip, really. You can't make, you've got to make your impact there and then, that is your cohort that in, you know, 2 years time when they're calving down, that's what the farm's depending on to have those dairy heifer replacements. So the biggest pressure is doing it right from the offset. And when I started, I kind of did a few adaptations in the first year, but mainly kind of doing what had always been done.
Yeah.
So we were dealing with old sheds as well. So yeah, they're old livestock sheds. They're not, you know, bespoke calf rearing sheds. But for me, that was kind of the excitement as well, like using all of the things I used to preach as a vet, you know, do this and this. And then it was kind of like, right, let's, you know, get our teeth into this and try and challenge and tackle the problem. So pneumonia was an issue.
And what were you seeing in terms of pneumonia on farm? Was it sort of classic sort of, I suppose, looking at, I guess, the scorecard here, you know, were you sort of seeing things like, you know, heavy breathing, snotty noses? Was it happening quite early on, or was it sort of something that was happening when they were a little bit older, sort of between them?
So it was happening quite early on. Yeah, so basically that first year, I treated, so overall there was 75% of that cohort that year that needed treatment, and it was just over 20% had one treatment and they were fine. The two treatments, again, it was about 20, I think 25%, and then for 3+, it was just over 25%. So, and yeah, so they were, I think, I guess from a veterinary point of view, I've always been very much look for the early signs. So it could have been, the earliest sign could have been that they were just slow to get up. They still got up and drank, but they were just slow to come. And to me, that's the first sign. You get the temperature, and lo and behold, they look absolutely fine. They do still drink, but they were slow. And so yeah, a high temperature, slow, and really, so although we had such a high percentage of treatment, so we had 120 calves, 6 I lost, either we had to euthanize or they died because of respiratory disease. So we had a big high percentage of treatment. So the key to getting them through, and they have, you know, they have joined the herd now. They are productive animals. Obviously, they won't be as productive as, you know, this current cohort where we've had no treatment for pneumonia. But the key thing was treating early, and yeah, this scorecard, I mean, all the teams see this, it's so important, because if you're getting to this end bit, that's too late, way too late. If you can get in here with your anti-inflammatories, maybe that's all that's needed, and some supportive care, brilliant. Obviously we did use antibiotics and things as well, but yeah, this is what you're looking, sorry, this one, the early signs here. So yeah, just quiet, slow to stand, maybe just slow, not completely drinking, maybe a little weepy, slightly heavy breathing. But if you get to the point where their necks are stretched out, they can't get any air in, you're going to be dealing with a lot harsher conditions. Yeah.
Well, we've actually got a really nice little video Holly's put together for us. So this is going back in time to 2020. You'll have to challenge your memory here. But we're going to play this now, and Holly's actually just going to sort of talk over what we can see in the videos, you know, in terms of the sheds, the layouts, and also I think there's some smoke bomb tests here. So we'll sort of talk through what you were doing and how you were using it as a tool in the toolbox. So we will just play the video now for you all to watch.
Okay, so you can see that we're in these old timber buildings. Because we had calves coming throughout that whole 9-week period, we had smaller groups, 10 initially, and then as they got older, we then grouped them, we took up the pens and they had a wider space, but we had 120 in this shed. So we've got the smoke bomb that I set up. So we were seeing this real bad issue with pneumonia. So the first thing to me is, let's see what's going on with ventilation. And what's happening, are we just getting stagnant air staying in there, which is obviously going to be harbouring all the viruses and moist air, and it's just going to be a perfect environment for respiratory disease to start. So you can see that we've got the cladding behind. Previously, I think a few had been taken off, but this isn't really an efficient way of just taking a bit of boarding off, because you can actually get turbulent airflow within your housing. But you can see how it just wafts around. Behind that cladding, there is actually a lean-to. So this is quite classic in a lot of these old sheds that they've put lean-to buildings, other buildings attached. So your inlet, so clean air source coming in, is very minimal. We do have an outlet ridge in this building, but it is pretty covered. I think the previous thought years and years ago was obviously they didn't want, you know, water coming in, and but it means that inlet and outlet were very limited. It was a very, very wet spring as well. There was only 2 days that season that were dry. We get a lot of coastal fog that comes in, and the moisture just sits in those buildings. So you can just see it's still really hazy, like, yeah, it doesn't clear so there's lots of stagnant air, which is the recipe for respiratory disease.
Right, so sort of I suppose protocols are quite key on a farm in terms of managing sort of disease. And we talk a lot about the calves and what you're doing in the young stock, but actually a lot of it does sort of come back to sort of that management of the cow and that sort of calving period. So I mean, Adam, do you want to talk through what you guys do within the calving season?
Yeah, so protocols, yeah, key. We drive protocols a lot, but the key thing is the team members write their protocols. So it's not just me dishing out, read this, do this, guys. It's they write it and then we form as a team. So that's done every season, isn't it? Like pre-calving, so everyone's on point, training given where needed. And then the cows, for me, it's like, we check the cows, the blood states, check their iodine levels are okay, because we're feeding on brassicas, dry cows. Body condition and nutrition, and then we do check the colostrum quality, don't we? So we know the nutrition's right as well. But also every animal on that farm is going to go through that calving pen, cow and calf. So there's that one that breaks down there, then the cows are going to affect the calf. So the big focus on that point, and the pressure of this many cows calving that quick, there's always going to be wobbles. There's that really short staff that day, or to break down. So it's dealing with those wobbles and correcting as quick as possible to get everything back on track, so we don't affect a whole cohort. So that's kind of the key bit really from my end.
And I suppose for Holly, once that calf has left the dairy and that's now in your care, what sort of protocols have you got in place?
Yeah, so so it's kind of working it through step by step. So obviously focusing on the calf. First thing as they enter is just double check that they are a heifer calf, because that's always the one to check. So first in the protocol, they get weighed. We didn't weigh initially, but now as we've got everything kind of more in place, we get a starting weight. And we monitor that throughout the period. So really every kind of 4 weeks, we're probably getting weights. So yeah, weigh them. If their navel needs dipping again, they get that dipped. And then they join their group. And now how we have it is because we're getting a lot in one hit, basically. So our groups are big. And they have to be managed well to be able to cope with big group sizes, but I am confident that we do it well for them. So they come into that group, and that will be their groups. There'll be 40 in a shed, and so obviously the first thing is training and making sure that they're well trained and that they're getting their decent feeds. Hygiene is a massive thing, so making sure obviously that on the protocols in terms of cleaning the feeders, so all personnel, hands, boots, all equipment anywhere that the calf touches for feeding, everything's clean, and we've got all those protocols in place. And then it's things like making sure that the environment, so that there's no, so that it's consistent basically. They get bedded up every day, they get fresh water, concentrate feed and straw forage from day one. So there's no kind of wiggle room, it's all consistent. So yeah, we're looking to other things like health and stuff.
Just jumping on like the hygiene, like it's really tricky to say the calf pickup trailer, where we're picking calves up into the calf sheds. That if we don't clean that well one day, you don't see effects day two.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's a build-up effect, so there isn't an instant consequence to the common protocol, is there?
Yeah.
So you see that 3 weeks down the line or something.
So I think whenever everything goes wrong, just go back to protocol and Jennifer's done hygiene at your end or something. But also when back in 2020 there, we were very much a dairy team with milking, right, finish milk, go to calves, and that, they were seen as like, well, it's easy, grass-fed system, just get on milk and paddocks, but we put a calf team in, didn't we? So you had a calf team and you designated.
So you got dedicated staff, but that was their one role.
Yeah.
Rather than, milk calves, go feed the calves, because you lose that detail, and and that's probably where I lacked as well. So we did bring you to do that, didn't we?
Yeah.
To head it up, and at the time there is reward in that time, like extra bedding up every day, or doing well. Then do they need bedding? No, because I'm under pressure.
I haven't got, but I know that I've got to go to the fence,
so
I've got to go back to milk.
actually, no, this is what you do every day. So and then you've got the time to do it. So.
Yeah. And because we've got the protocol, then it's it's there in black and white. It also means that if anyone, if I was ill or whatever, if you go off, it's there. Like you can literally step into that role. This is what needs to be doing, and and like you say, 3 weeks down the line, if you haven't maybe been keeping on top of it, that's when you see the issues. We haven't got wriggle room for that in this system.
No.
So fed up every day, it'll be right. Yeah.
I mean, and do you work with your vet in terms of like health planning? I know we had a webinar the other night talking about using sort of antibiotics, and one of the key things actually our speaker said was sometimes people don't revisit that protocol in terms of the retreatment. So they might have a treatment plan for treating their calves, but maybe don't revisit how quickly to come in with that second treatment. Do you work quite closely with your vet sort of on this?
Yeah, I suppose from a treatment, I'm coming from a slightly different angle in the fact that I'm confident with the treatment plans. But yes, we do. What we do is we get the vets in, and at the beginning of pre-calving, we get them in, and we've got all of our protocols in place, but we have a meeting and we walk through everything together. So we're looking at the potential trigger points of issues from the calving shed through into the calf buildings. Regarding treatment plans, yes, we have all of that as our in place, and they're great at vets. So if there are any problems, I suppose because of our backgrounds as well, it's very much a team approach. So they're great in terms of we all bring ideas and we work together as a team. So but if something's not working, that is the key thing, to address it there and then. Don't wait, because again, there's no time in the system.
Can't wait to need the season.
Yeah, so if you're thinking, I'm doing a lot of treatments, then we've got to relook at why is that happening, why is it not working.
Wow. We've got a question coming, Jamie.
Yeah, we have a question. Do your calves go straight into individual pens before they join the larger groups, or straight into a larger group?
So straight into a larger group now. So it's I found initially in 2020 they were in smaller groups, but yes, they go straight into those larger groups. So on busy days I might have 24 to 30 to train, and I have trained them directly onto the milk trailer. It's not going to work for every system working like that, and I feel confident that they are getting what they need, but it's looking for all the little signs. But that's the way our system works, and it's one of the efficiencies that we've found. But they do train really well.
And then that's their group all the way through. So they don't. We used to do like a training pen and then go into group, but that's another step in the system where something go wrong. It's
risks for hygiene breakdown, isn't it? But also it's another stress. So we found the less moving of groups, the more kind of just steady kind of environment for them, then that worked better for us.
And I know that was something that came up in one of the previous webinars during the week, was actually stress periods for calves, and sort of it's quite nice to see that obviously you've made that change and you are just keeping them in that one group, and actually that's having the results that you want. We've got another video coming up now actually, so we've kind of talked about the challenges and what you guys have done on the farm, but now we're kind of going to look at a bit of that journey. So we've got a video from 2021 looking at sort of the calf shed, how you kind of maybe have started to adapt things, and we've actually got another smoke bomb video to see how that actually had an effect with some of those sort of manual changes you made to the video. So we're just going to watch that now.
Okay, so so basically we moved from using the big large shed, which had 60 either side, to then basically using all the buildings that we had available to us. So basically we've got these big old sheds that we adapted. In this one you can, so basically in the old sheds, for comparison, we basically took all of the cladding out along each side. I mentioned that there were lean-tos either side. We took all the cladding off, the space boarding away, and so then this really improved our inlets. So we were having nice steady airflow in to the building. The outlet, the ridge, is still something that we need to look at, but that's a bit more of a bigger structural job to consider. Sorry, I can't quite see, it's just delaying. Okay. So yeah, so basically with the buildings, it was making use of all the space that we had, majorly reducing stocking density, which has had a massive effect on the management, improving straw quality as well, so reducing the dust. Oh, how are we doing?
Oh, we've just caught up.
Oh, we've caught up, sorry.
Bit of a
I wasn't
lag on,
quite linked. Other things to improve efficiencies, so things like putting the straw bales in the housing, they can be used to block drafts, drafty areas. So some of these old buildings have got a wide open face, like a monopitch type style, so having these bales blocks the draft at calf level, so you're getting nice, nicely ventilated airflow, but no drafts at calf level. So I'm not sure if I'm matching what I'm saying. It's fitting with the videos. But the key thing is as well, it's, and I'll always say this, is when you're looking at these kind of videos, would you be happy in this environment yourself? Like, would you be happy to sit in that? Would you be happy to lie in that? And that's, we can go into all the details of all of the stats and measurements and timings, but the key thing is, I think, is to walk into any building, especially if you're adapting an old building, and say, am I happy to sit here? Is this comfortable for me? And if it's comfortable for you, it'll be comfortable for your calves. So I think we're getting the smoke.
Just about the smoke.
Just coming through now. I mean, the key thing is basically when we removed the cladding and we opened up those inlets, we suddenly have a much better airflow in those buildings. You can see that there's no draft at calf level, that wall goes above, but you can see that the smoke is moving away. So the stale air, which will be harbouring moisture and pathogens, will be going away from the calves. And the other key thing to note is, because we utilise more of the buildings, we're very much having strict age groups. I mean, most of each group, up to 40 calves, but they'll all be within a week, maybe, or maximum 1 to 2 weeks with the outliers of the first group and the last, but maybe 1 to 2 weeks age difference. So we're not running that risk of kind of spreading disease from from oldest to youngest as well. Just the other thing to note, which was a massive, you can see the ridge there, so that's something that we still want to work on. And Jamie Robertson had a really great tip with that in his talk about the open ridge, which can create the air pressure to get the airflow out and suck that dirty air out. So that's definitely something we want to look at in the future. But as I said, it's not as easy to than it was. It's easier to sort out the inlet first, but it's definitely helped. You can just touch on, you might see that we've, another big efficiency to our system was our feeding protocol. So we mentioned use of the milk trailers. The milk trailers have 50 teats. Our biggest holds a 1,000 litre capacity. We make sure that there's 10 to 15% free space, so that there's no competition for the teats, and basically we reverse the trailers into the pens, and then the calves feed. Now, initially in 2021, we had, you've got to think that you get most moisture around the feeding area. So since so from about, well, certainly this last season, I've blocked off areas so you're not getting as much moisture in the bedding area as well. So I hope that If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, no, that's quite interesting you say that, because actually I was going to bring it up in that picture we had very early on in the slides. It showed the cows and their pens of 10 and their feeders, and you could actually see that there was wet concrete.
Yeah.
So that's obviously made a massive change for you, not having that moisture in the environment.
Absolutely, yeah, because we were trying to, the idea with that was trying to keep it off the bedded area and cleaning it out, but you can see how wet that building was, and part of that is, yeah, because we were cleaning it, it's never going to completely dry, but also that year was very wet, so every morning you'd go and you'd have heavily bedded up and everything would be saturated with moisture because of the way, obviously there's poor ventilation, but also the weather restrictions that we had as well. But yeah, reducing moisture is one of the biggest key things to improve reduction of pneumonia.
No, actually, I was going to say, you touched on the weather. You are coastal dairy farms,
Yes.
so how difficult is it, I suppose? Do you get a lot of precipitation? Do you get sea breeze and sea mist coming in? How's that challenge, I suppose, as well?
Well, it's like farming in a cloud, isn't
Yeah.
it? Basically,
In the
yeah.
spring, you either get fog roll in and you can't see the end of the shed, can you? So, yeah, over a rainfall about 32 inches, so not a lot massive, but it's the damp atmosphere, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So, yeah,
Always a bit of a breeze, I would say.
yeah, which isn't
Can help.
necessarily a bad thing for ventilating buildings. But yeah, it's the moisture that is a big thing. And so the key thing that we should also touch on is that these heifers aren't in the shed so the whole time. A key thing to our management is getting them out as soon as the weather allows it. Certainly once they're about 3 to 4 weeks of age, when they can deal with, the critical temperatures and things, when they can deal with freezing temperatures and things as well. And if the weather allows it, getting them out, because in 2020, really the main thing that put that stop break on the pneumonia was getting them outside, wasn't it? So that's a big part of our system. So we'll continue feeding them in paddocks outside.
And you mentioned kind of cold. Did you ever use calf jackets or anything like that, or not?
We have, we've toyed.
Bit on sick ones. isn't it?
Anything that's sick gets one. It's a bit of a logistical thing to consider, and we have toyed with, the under 3 to 4 weeks of age ones. Do we do it? This year was a little bit of a, well, let's see what we can do with growth rates without doing it. And basically, consistently from that first 4 weeks, we were getting 1 kilogram daily live weight gain. We didn't, so you could argue they were heavily bedded, nice, straw, nice nested straw areas. You can't see any of their, upper limbs. They were having nice, cozy environment. We are in timber sheds, so I know lots of people, and I really enjoyed Jamie's talk for that, bringing it back to, these timber sheds do have a place. They are warm, and I do think that probably helps as well. But the other key thing for us is we've changed that from 2020 to onwards, is we don't restrict milk intake. So the calves are on whole milk. In 2020, they were probably having maximum 5 litres maybe, but basically my general protocol is the calves can have as much milk as they want. They're fed twice a day until 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how they're doing, and then once a day, when we're doing once a day feeding, they've basically got themselves to that point, because we're letting them have as much as they want in a feed. We were finding by the afternoon they weren't getting up, they weren't really wanting it. So the fact that they are getting as much energy as they want, they're utilising that for keeping warm, but also for growth as well. So maximum they'd be having, depending on the sizes, because we're getting 20 kilos versus 40 kilo calf, there's a bit of a variation, but they'll be having 6 to 8 litres maximum a day, but some are probably going to be having more, some less. And then we start restricting from about 6 to 8 weeks. They're weaned at 12 weeks, but that's the organic system as well. But yeah, so I would argue at the moment there's not a massive drive for the jackets, but it's something that we kind of like the idea of. So I think it's something we're going to look at in the future.
With the weighing you do,
Yeah,
I think we could do some and actually see if we get some data to say whether it's worth it or not.
I think that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, they're nice blue jackets.
Yeah, because in the old shed that we had for 2020, you can have 2 groups very similar conditions and maybe have one side
Yeah,
with
trial
calves and one
control.
without, and that's something we'd like to
Yeah.
play around with and see.
I think interestingly, some genetics have a bit of play, don't they? So we
Absolutely.
do see some daughters do excel in this system and some struggle.
Yes.
Don't
Yeah.
they? So I think that's
Yeah, so
future
genetics.
sort of thing, what we could look into that as well,
Yeah.
especially when you do outside so early.
Yeah, yeah, we need these, yeah,
And
hard.
I guess too, because you are weaning outside and have been outside quite young, you don't tend to get any check or any stress periods. So actually, the rate of pneumonia, I'm hoping or assuming, is actually quite low once they're outside. You wouldn't really get any cases
Absolutely.
around that weaning period. So
Our risky time, it's the housing, it's managing the housing, and yeah, that I always kind of relax a little bit once they're out, because you think that risk is less.
You're just tipping the disease versus immune system seesaw, you're just tipping disease away,
Yeah.
you've got to get them out. And
well, yes, funny you mentioned Jamie, because I think he had that key point in his webinar actually last week, and you can watch this on YouTube. But as Holly said, I suggest you do. It's just a really good overview. But he was, pneumonia is a multifactorial disease. There's not just one issue that can cause it and exacerbate it on farm. But he did say that the building is the one thing that doesn't really change. Your colostrum management or your disease status on farm does. But if you can get that housing period right at the very beginning, that's going to be the one thing that you can have a really good control on. Well, we've kind of looked at 2021. We're now going to go fast forward to kind of our current, we've given away a lot of clues, I think, in terms of what well, no, that's just opens a conversation. But so sort of looking, you've kind of taken a holistic view. You've looked at the sheds. You've looked, you obviously you were measuring on farm already your treatment rate, so you actually were very well aware that you needed to reduce that sort of antimicrobial load. And obviously from that you've made these sort of changes over the last couple of years. So we've got a nice little video here of kind of where you are today and what you're doing and how that's actually helped get the results that we're looking for on farm. So hopefully we don't have any delays this time in the video. We'll load up without any lags. Apologies for the internet for anyone at home.
So the key thing in this building, you can see at the back wall there, that's complete at the moment, but then we did open that up so that they could, the calves could get out and have an access to being outside. You see now they're running out, so we cut that open, and so they've got a nice system here where I wish all the sheds were like this, where they can be outside, have fresh air. They love running around. Like, that's one of the best things for me, seeing them have fun, playing, lots of enrichment outside, and then they can come in when the temperature drops. So they've got a nice kind of bits of both worlds. Hygiene there is always the most the most important thing, I'd say. If you were happy to drink from that, then it's good enough. And I know it sounds extreme, but that's the only way that they're not going to be getting any disease risks. And you can see our feeder there where we backed it in, which has been a great change as well.
So I suppose actually there's been a lot of videos of you backing that trailer and live. I'm quite jealous because I don't think I could do that in my
Taking a lot of practice.
How much practice has it taken you to kind of perfect that?
Oh, a long time. Like when we first started using that in 2021, I used to call Adam out and be like, "Can you come and reverse it to the next
precious
week now?"
line, because if you damage the trailer, your day's going to go
Yeah,
really bad.
Because we're feeding up to 200 calves, and if I didn't have that would make life a lot harder. So it works well, but you have to be concentrated.
Yeah, it's key not making the calf a rush job again, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I broke it because I rushed it. I was trying to do something else and stuff. So
So taking that dedicated time and attention to detail is definitely really
attention to detail. It's patience and attention to detail. And I think I always say, if you put in that time, it's really hard work. I mean, there's days when you want to cry, or probably have cried, but we've all been there. But that if you put in that hard work, then they will be a healthy cohort, ongoing.
a good example is, when you put the hole in the shed and you go in and out, you're almost, I think other outside don't just ease off the bedding now, but you do. I know, it's safe and straw, whatever, but you've got to manage it exactly as if they're in full time. Do you know what I mean? And then, so you can easily fall into these little holes by improving stuff.
Yeah, but I think the key thing is obviously every farm is different. yeah, we're dealing with old sheds, and that was almost part of the draw, the attraction to it, to almost prove to ourselves, you know, you can do it well even in these old sheds. My challenge for 2023 was, can I do everything I possibly can to get on top of this pneumonia? If I couldn't have done it this year, then we were going to start vaccinating, but we did have no treatment required for pneumonia this year. Now, it may be that this coming spring is a different story. Maybe the weather will not be on our side, you know, maybe something will happen. You know, every year is different, but currently we are doing this without a vaccination protocol. I guess that was, you know, the challenge that we set ourselves with, can we do as much as we can within the environment without that? But obviously every farm's different, and yeah, you've got to kind of work to the strengths and yeah, be adaptive, I guess.
I suppose because you are a block calving herd, it is a case of there's a lot of pressure on that shed in one period of the year, but equally you don't have that drive to then spend a lot of money to build a brand new shed that might only have calves in it for sort of 2-3 months of the year. So there is that balance. And I know, did you ever, I mean, I know there's been fixes, and we talked about this on one of Jamie's webinars, as well as putting in mechanical ventilation tubes. I mean, had you considered anything like that?
We have talked about it, but we were kind of saying, look, let's look at the obvious first. You know, the inlets need to be improved. We still know that outlet could have some, you know, some help. And yeah, so it's kind of, yeah, we could do that, but I think at the moment probably not. The other thing I should mention is that main shed that we focused a lot on, that's our last shed that we fill. So we've actually worked out with smoke bomb testing all of the sheds that we have available. We know which are the best ones. So the best ones for ventilation, they get the calves in there that are going to be there the longest. But sometimes if the weather's really good, we might have a season where we've got calves that are 2 to 3 weeks of age going out. So it's kind of using what you have to the best of your ability.
But also, you're right, the sheds are empty for a long time. And it's not in our head to go do loads of work on the sheds. So but then when you use them, you need them. Right. So.
We've had a question come in as well. Jamie, do you want to read that one out?
So referring to the wooden slats on the side of the barn, is there a specific distance that you aimed to place these apart from each other?
No, so basically, so in 2020, they were just, whether they've fallen out or whether people had taken bits out, they'd started taking out, that was kind of before that would have been before our time. But basically, we got as many out that we could. So we didn't, because, I mean, yeah, we could have toyed and played around, but because there'd been such a dramatic issue with pneumonia, and because we only had that one chance at spring to get it right, we were just like, we removed as much as we could, and they were consistent both sides. So I think I mentioned that you don't want it to be to create turbulent airflow. You want it to be a steady airflow. So yeah, we basically took as much as we could out. So it was, basically.
There's no gap. They're not there.
No, there's no giant gap.
And I suppose, for the person who asked that question, actually, if you do look at the housing guide that is online, we do have a lot of information there, because there's always the contentious issue talking about, you know, the difference between sort of Yorkshire boarding and space boarding, and sort of how that can interact with airflow going through. So we'll put the links in there, and that will come in the follow-up email as well. So any more questions about sort of spacing on boardings, you can have to find that online. Well, I thought we've actually also got a nice sort of little clip coming up, I think, because the whole reason that you guys do this is actually for the future of the herd, isn't it? Absolutely. It's sort of, as you've mentioned, it's really nice to see that cohort of heifers coming in healthy for you, Adam, to know that you've got that, you know, you've got those replacement heifers there to come into the herd and obviously be really productive. And I thought it was a nice little video we've got here at the end, just to kind of summarize that version of, you know, that calf being born all the way through to that cow entering the milking herd. So I'll have a little quick look at that. hopefully that played and everyone could see that. But you know, does that make you feel really quite proud, I suppose, knowing that you've done that really, really hard work at the very beginning to see them come into the herd?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful when you go and like walk amongst the herd and see those animals. They often come and find you as well, which is nice. They remember you. But yeah, it's fun. Like when you're in the milking parlour and you see, I visited when Adam's been milking. I'm like, oh, I remember them, and you can see like they're milking well. And yeah, it's what we do it for. You know, helping animals and yeah, productive animals.
And I suppose sort of going back, like looking, you've done all these changes. If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently in terms of sort of how you approached it, or are you quite confident with sort of the steps you took in diagnosing and working out how to go make changes on farm?
I think it's been little steps all the way, so I'm sure there's more to do, but it wasn't like rip it down, start again. It was like, try this, what does that do, try it. So it's a bit of a strategic approach.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's, I suppose, I guess it was nice for me to kind of practice what I used to preach. So I tried to approach that in a strategic way that I would have had it been a client, you know, and going on to someone else's farm. So it was nice to say that let's do the simple things first and build from there. So I think you can always look back and think, oh, like for example, where you say it was moist in that area where it was all wet, why didn't we just bed it up? But you know, you can do these little tweaks and stuff. But I think overall we've got to a better place. There's still definitely more to do. I mean, we're always tweaking colostrum management, timings. That's probably one of our pressures, timings, especially overnight. So it's always just kind of, it's that kind of efficiencies versus, getting it.
I actually mentioned colostrum. What sort of is the colostrum protocol on the farm here? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so do you want to say it or shall I go?
No, you go, yeah.
So it's
It'll be the same.
yeah. We've got a protocol. So the key thing is, I guess being adapted. We say 10 to 12% of body weight. We have a wide range. We get these little jerseys that 20 kilos versus 40 kilos. So the key thing we've said to the team as well, because it is mainly the team doing the colostrum, is if they look like they want more, they're still empty, give them more. The key thing was, I guess we should go back pre-2020, there was probably lots of assumptions made there. There are these really thrifty calves. It can be really hard. Like Adam's chasing them around sometimes to try and get an ear tag. They're so thrifty from birth. The assumption was, they've been with their mum, for 24 hours. They must have had lots of colostrum. But yeah, so we stepped in with that colostrum protocol. So everything gets colostrum, 10 to 12% of body weight. There is, from a veterinary hat point of view, obviously getting in there as quickly as possible. People talk about less than 2 hours, less than 4 hours, less than 6 hours. We've got to be realistic within the time frame. During the day, if they're born, they're going to get it pretty quick. If it's overnight, we're going to be pushing it. So that's something that we do want to look at more in terms of having the 24-hour cover. And we do measure colostrum, so greater than 20% bricks. Now we've got to say also, sometimes it's not perfect, but if there are any, if there's been a timing delay, if the calf was, maybe sometimes we have these stormy weathers and the calf was born in the passageway or earlier unexpected, we mark up that calf. It still comes into the system, but we're extra aware. It doesn't change our management.
No, so
we've sprayed it, so we know that
it's
they're
a compromised calf.
So maybe that's one you put a jacket on, for
Yeah.
example. It's going to get that extra bit of TLC. And obviously what it always comes down to is cleanliness. So you can have the best colostrum protocol, but if someone is administering that in a dirty bottle, or they've got dirty hands, or they're literally just been milking and they're covered visibly in muck, then it's pointless, because that immune system is obviously completely vulnerable. You're kind of, before they've even come into the heifer shed, you're stuck.
We're at high risk, so if they come in and goes 30 animals a tube, that's a lot of transfer problem.
Yeah.
So it's a massive thing for us to make sure the hygiene of the tubes are right, all the dump buckets, or the buckets we're carrying the colostrum in is all that's our risk, isn't it, rather than
And that's,
actual colostrum.
and although I kind of go on about it as well, that's why I do say about the tips in terms of would you be happy? Like if someone passes you a dirty mug that, you know, that hasn't been washed for days.
Did you just pick your mug?
But it is the way, the mindset, because like you say, when you've got 30 animals and you've got, you know, a load of cow, you know, all the cows to milk and you've got all of this and stuff, there's pressures.
There's
People
pressure.
say, I could get, you know, maybe you could get away with it. But I think the key thing, take everything away. Is that good enough for you? Is it good enough for the calf? And so I think we've always got, it's getting into that mindset.
Its pressures is a lot we manage it because no one wants to do a bad job.
No,
So
no.
we've got to take that pressure away so they can do a good job.
Yeah, and that's where your management, and that's, I suppose that is key as well in terms of doing things well, is making sure, because mistakes are made when you're tired. So you do make sure that everyone's got their time off, they're, you know, working decent hours and stuff, even in the thick of it as well. Yeah.
So yeah, real cost.
Yeah, we talked, yeah, use the word manage actually, but like, that's nice because obviously one of the metrics I suppose quite often everyone will hear, we always bang on about at AHDB, we're really proud is, you know, measure the manage. You know, if you don't know where you start with something, how do you know how to improve? So when you are measuring obviously things like, you know, back in 2020, the treatment rates, how did you approach that to figure out sort of your thresholds, just, you know, for advice for people who might not potentially be managing or aware of sort of the number of treatments? How did you go about that?
So I suppose this is where definitely if anyone's having a problem, and even I'd say as soon as you're starting to have to reach for medication, that shows that there is a pressure. And we always say that you've got your clinical cases and your subclinical cases. So I think to make it easier, we could talk about different percentages, and I'm sure there's lots of research out there. But I think to make it simple, as soon as you are starting to open bottles of medication, get the conversation in with your vet, start getting your team together and start going through. It could be many factors, and that's the thing, we haven't changed one thing, we've done lots of things, and maybe you'll never know, but if you can do as much as you can. So I think as soon as you, so as soon as you're starting to treat things, that shows there is something going on. And I think just go from there, because you're only ever going, okay, you may never get it perfect, but you can start reducing it as soon as possible. So,
But it's things like, so like with the colostrum, we record the bricks percentage of colostrum, how much went into the calf, who did the calf. So if you were seeing problems in the calf, so we might be able to go back to say, all colostrum quality was struggling at this point.
Yeah.
So we might see effect there.
And I can hear a little calf, there's a little calf for a helper that's calling.
Yeah.
So we're going to be joined by another guest.
Sorry, you managed to nap him.
No, that's just life, and yeah, I'm sure everybody else will understand completely. So, but I suppose, did you sort of, do you use like a Excel spreadsheet, or did you find software helped sort of in terms of tracking cases on farm? What was the
Software.
Software, yeah, so just tracking, monitoring and recording treatment, we use HiveWatch.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
Yeah.
But there is that wash up end of season as well, or mid-season, where I think, oh, is this what's worked, what hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And you know, we do analyse the vet spends. So after each year, like, where's our vet spend gone? Has it gone on calf treatments? Has it gone on mastitis treatments? So to highlight where we're going, expenses as well.
And we had another question come through, didn't we, Jamie?
Yeah, we've had a little flurry of questions actually. Have you seen a tangible impact on the milking herd's performance since the calves have come through into the herd then, since the changes?
Yeah, the quality of the animal, yes, for sure. And less exiting out after year one, I suppose. I think that's the real challenge, is to highlight, to follow that through now and say, this animal's journey and she did this because of what, and that's the data needed as a general system.
Yeah, now we've got that kind of more data and focus, and we probably can pull it through. But yeah, I think
the higher percentage get to mating, so you've got a higher percentage likely to get pregnant, so the higher percentage likely to get through year one.
Yeah, you're in that position where you've got more surplus rather than not having enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I suppose you did mention exiting, you know, after the first lactation. Would it be fair to say probably the main reason potentially in your herd isn't necessarily health, it could be actually another issue.
Yes.
Which I didn't want to bring up.
No, but that is,
Oh, TB. Yeah,
massive.
TB. Yeah, so
Yeah.
TB's, yeah.
You've never really selectively been able to, well, selectively cull and things like that, because TB has been a massive impact. Hence also when I started, it was 120 heifers that we were aiming for replacements. Now we carry up to 200 because we need that buffer, because sometimes we can have big hits with TB losses. So,
But in a way, if we're producing healthier animals, they should be more resistant. Their immune system's better to fight off TB.
yeah.
I mean, there is there is like the TB advantage when you're looking at your genetics. Is that something you guys have looked into, or for breeding?
No.
Yeah, I guess that TB, again, it's multifactorial, isn't it? Like pneumonia. So probably, I mean, it would.
I don't know about genetically how it's done, whether it's daughter breeding where, but then all the daughters are in the east of England where there's little TB or something like that. So
but you have made challenges, and you've made quite a few changes. Sort of, you don't grow maize on farm anymore, and sort of other things that you've looked at. Sort of
TB. But we're a large herd, so even though we go clear on a test, we've probably got a bit of TB in there. So losing animals TB is a problem, but we don't. Yeah, so we carry enough heifers, but we don't go silly on doing that pressures the system.
Yeah.
And another question, Jamie.
Yeah. Have you got a minimum number of cases in mind before a vaccination becomes cost beneficial on this farm?
I haven't got one specific. I suppose overall, I did set almost a challenge to myself, saying, right, if we are having, again, I know I said they're reaching for medication, but I think you're always gonna, if you're gonna have one in one group, you've probably got a few that's fighting it off. So I think, to me, it was kind of, if we couldn't get on top of it this year, and like I said, who knows what happens next year, but I think if it was just more of an overall feel, if we're having to treat for pneumonia still, and then I think that it warrants a discussion about vaccination. So again, I haven't got a specific figure in mind, and I'm sure lots of people do based on different systems, but I suppose to me, it's kind of like, if you're still getting it, there's still a risk that you're going to have compromised animals. So yeah, that would be when I'd start thinking about it, I guess. Yeah.
I think there was actually a statistic Tim might have mentioned on the, he was kind of saying maybe like a generic threshold of 20%. So within, I think, he was saying, say, within 100 calves of 20% needed treatments, that should be your maximum you'd really want within sort of anything. So, but that's going to be really farm specific. So I think that's a conversation to have with your vet. And, for people who might not have potentially got a herd health plan or a young stock plan with their vet, obviously you can use things like the animal health and welfare pathway visit at the moment. You've still got to do your BVD samples, but that's a really nice time to get the vet on farm, and you could actually potentially use it as a chance for conversations to sort of talk about things like that. So no. So, well, thank you both for today. It's been a really nice sort of whistle-stop tour of the farm here. And I think we're all looking forward to some better weather in April where we can actually get on farm. And the dates for that will hopefully come out soon, but it will be April 2024. We'd really welcome everybody to come here, and actually the perfect timing, I suppose, because you guys will have just finished calving. We'll be looking at calving one. But, we're going to have those heifers and everything out on the farm. So really looking forward to being able to show all the hard work that you guys do and start the journey. So thank you all for joining us. There will be, if we go to the next slide, there should be a QR code here. So anybody watching, please scan this. This is actually the last of the webinars, but it will take you to the landing page. That's going to give you a list of all the previous webinars that have been on, and a link to obviously them on YouTube. This one will go live onto YouTube within a couple of days. But anybody, again, if you did not receive the delegate pack, you can go online, order these resources, or just get in touch with your regional KM, and we would love to see some pictures of these on social media as well. So thank you for coming, everybody, and we will let you all get back to your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.